Thank you guys for joining our webinar today. This particular webinar is going to be covering Roland's answer to the need for ADA signage. Again, I'm the product manager, Rick Rivera for Raven Solutions here at Roland. Myself, as well as Adam Sebrin, are your contacts, your go-to guys for anything ADA related. Adam more so on the sales side, myself on the more technical side. This particular webinar is going to cover kind of the basics. We're going to explain what ADA signage is. We're going to talk about some of the key specifications of ADA signage, some of the opportunities, and your target market, who you should be selling these bundles to. We're also going to talk about what the customer is looking for in ADA signage, so that when you're talking to your prospects, you can give more detail as far as, hey, your customers going to be looking for this, and having a system in-house is going to allow you to provide those services. Also going to give you the resources for the ADA laws and regulations as far as the websites where the customers can get all of this information. We're also going to go over some of the resources for ADA signage jobs. Now this would be for the customer, your customer. Once they buy a system, how do they find ADA jobs? So I have some resources for that. We're going to talk about why we're pushing raster braille as opposed to photopolymers or other methods of doing braille. Briefly go over the workflow. Going to cover our solution, and I also have a system comparison between the two. So here we go with our first poll. So we're going to go ahead and pop up some poll questions for you before we get started, just to get a feel for how everybody feels about ADA signage. All right. So here we go. So here's a couple of the polling questions. So the first one here. Is this your first introduction to ADA signage and ADA signage systems? So if you guys can go ahead and give me a yes or no, we'll go on to the next question. Okay, let's see. Here we go. All right, so, so it looks like most of you, well, it's almost split. Most of you have been doing this, and some of you are new to it, so that's good. So some of this might be old news to you, or it might give you a few more items on your list for some of you as far as new ones. Hopefully this will get you going. All right, so what is ADA? Okay, ADA stands for Americans with Disabilities Act. Okay, now the term ADA signs has come into common use in the architectural, construction, and signage industries. With the whole advent of Americans with Disabilities Act. But it's interesting that a lot of people think of ADA as just braille signs, and it's a lot more than that. Certainly, braille with the raised characters are the most visible part of ADA signage, but ADA covers other types of signs as well, such as directional wayfinding signs as well as directory boards. These are all part of or a form of ADA signage. Architectural signs. Okay, this is where the braille signs come into play. Now, with architectural signage, okay, these must comply with ADA guidelines. So if the sign identifies a permanent room or space of a facility, which includes, exits, directs or informs about functional spaces of the facility, or accessible features, it has to comply with the ADA laws and guidelines that are out there. Now, if the signs are strictly for advertising or marketing purposes, or temporary signs, so, company logos hanging from the front of a building, things like that, those signs do not have to comply because, again, they're typically temporary signs, and they're also used for advertising or marketing purposes. Okay, so for those of you that sell to the sign market, as far as our inkjets go, this is kind of your familiar territory. You've got guys that are out there producing banners for businesses, signs for businesses, things like that. These do not have to comply to ADA guidelines, whereas structural signage does. Okay. Some of the specifications for ADA signage include that signs must have a non-glare background, as well as characters. Okay? Glare and reflection are a major problem for people with vision impairments, not necessarily the blind, but people that have, nearsightedness, farsightedness, or can't really, they're colorblind. So a non-glare background gives them a better field of perception. Okay, particularly the elderly. Okay. Another specification is that the sign must have a high dark to light contrast between the characters in the background. Okay. So the issue is not color, okay, but lightness and darkness. So you can use whatever color combination you want as long as one is light and one is dark. So that's the key element here. Okay, so like I said, the key to the signage is that you have to have that high dark to light contrast. Okay, and again, it's not so much for the blind, but for the vision impaired. All signs have to have an easy to read typeface. Okay, so for the typefaces, customers are typically going to use the sans serif font. So Arial is the most common one. Futura is another that's usually typically used. For the main designation, okay, so restroom, medical room, men's, women's, these have to be in all uppercase. Okay, whereas additional information, such as in the medical room sign here where it says restricted access, that can be upper lowercase, it doesn't matter. As far as your opportunities and target markets are concerned, okay, the beauty of the laws going into effect next year as far as enforcement is that the laws now mandate that ADA compliant signage be in public accommodations, okay, such as restaurants, hotels, theaters, retail stores, museums, parks, and so forth. So this is a great opportunity for somebody to get into producing ADA signage, especially if, there's a local hospital being built. If there's a facility that is expanding and they need to update their signage. The beauty of that is, especially in an upgrade type situation, if the building requires more than 10% new signage, basically the entire building has to be done if it has the older type of routed braille. Again, some other opportunities in the markets for us. The interior architectural signage market, okay, covers your institutional facilities. So School districts. Here in Los Angeles, you've got the LA Unified School District for one. They've got over, I believe it's over 1,200 schools in the district that require ADA compliant signage. So having a contract like that is huge, or getting into that is huge. Again, your hospitality, such as your hotels, your restaurants, cruise lines, as well as resorts, require ADA compliant signage. Your healthcare facilities, okay, your hospitals, your universities, educational facilities, so your universities, your high schools, elementary schools require this. Your government facilities, so courthouses, for instance, police departments, taxman, county recorders, as well as the military. The military does require ADA compliant signage. Now, does that mean that they require Braille? Not for most cases, but again, directional signage, things of that nature, yes, they do have to have that. And again, any offices that the public enters has to have that. Those are your opportunities and your target markets. Again, transportation facilities are another. Commercial and corporate sign shops even, so your franchise shops. Signorama typically outsources a lot of their work, but we have sold a few machines into that where these guys are taking advantage of the ADA market. But again, you have like outlet stores, malls, things of that nature. Okay. Now, what is the customer looking for? So this is the customer that goes into a sign shop looking for ADA signage. And the most common things they're looking for are, one, first and foremost, functionality. Is it compliant? Is it attractive? The beauty of using an engraver is that not only can you engrave the sign, but you can also route it out, have some nice shapes. If the customer is an inkjet customer, they can even add in color images. So if you're doing, acrylics, for instance, they could do reverse print on clear with the white flood on the back of the acrylic. On the front side, drill the Braille, put in their pictogram and the raised text, and now you've got a very attractive sign that can actually garner a lot more as far as return on investment. Durability, the beauty of using the engravers for this is that we can engrave in pretty much any type of material. So unlike photopolymer. The ease of maintenance. There really is not much maintenance other than, brushing and vacuuming off the debris. The cost effectiveness. There's no plates to be made. There's no additional printing equipment that is required to add color. There's no, cleaning bins. There's no chemicals involved. Plus the additional applications that you can use the machine for. Also, these customers can provide quicker turnaround times. Typically on an ADA sign, especially if it's custom, customers typically look at a 2 to 4 week turnaround. Now, if they have the equipment in-house, they can provide the signage, literally same day or next day, and they can charge a premium for that. Some of the resources, okay, for ADA laws and regulations, okay. So the first one here is the Access Board. So this is the ADAG, which is the Access Board, and this is the United States Access Board, and they're the ones that actually came up with ADA guidelines as far as how signs should be made, as well as other ADA compliances, so how buildings are done and restrooms and things like that. But for our purpose, it's the guidelines for ADA signage that pertains to us the most. And this particular link, and you guys will have access to this document, it's going to be in section 4.30 okay, which covers signage. Okay. The other website that covers the 2010 ADA standards, which are going into effect next year in March, is www.ada.gov. And the document is the 2010 ADA standards, and Chapter 7 of that booklet covers signage. Now, for your customer, okay, when you sell a machine to a customer, the customer may ask you, well, how do I find signage jobs? How do I find those customers? And you as a dealer should be able to provide this information to the customer to get them going. First and foremost, there's the Builders Exchange. This actually lists all of the different contractors and things in the country. You have the construction market data, Dodge Reports. It's another construction document that lists, any new construction that's going on in that area, and the customer can actually go out and bid for those. There are some construction industry search engines, so Bid Clerk, as well as state and county builders exchange sites. So these are all different places that the customer, your customer, can go to try to obtain jobs for doing ADA signage. Local Manufacturers Alliance, even the local architects in their city. You could address the building owners or facility managers of particular buildings. Now, why raster braille? Okay, why raster braille? We're going to try to answer that question as opposed to photopolymer. Now, the raster braille method itself is a very simple concept. Okay, basically all we're doing is drilling a hole and placing in a raster sphere. Okay, a little raster ball. The Roland EGX series engravers are great for this. So the EGX 350, the 400, and the 600. Okay, according to the 2010 ADA standards, okay, signs that are designed to be read by touch should not have sharp or abrasive edges. Now the beauty is when using an engraver with the 10 thou cutter, those edges are actually going to be beveled slightly. So that's going to make reading by hand or by touch much easier on the fingers of visually impaired people. Okay, unlike photopolymer, the edges are straight, so straight, sharp edges. And what ends up happening is it can cause readers' fingers to get desensitized to that and makes signs harder to read. Okay, so again, engraving, that's a plus for us. Also, in the ADA standards, it does specify that braille dots must have a domed or rounded shape. And I actually make note of the section in the ADA standards, which is 703.3.1, which covers dimensions and capitalization. Now, with photopolymer, again, because it's an etching system, it leaves the dots flat on the surface. So what they do is they have to use, a little Dremel tool to round it off, so there's more manual labor involved. Or when they add paint, they have to add paint just right to give it kind of that domed shape. So as far as production, photopolymer does have a lot more steps involved, a lot more cost involved too. Okay, so in the end, less return on investment. Let's go over the workflow. Okay, over the next couple of days, we're going to be covering all of this. So we're going to be covering software workflow tomorrow, and then Thursday we're going to cover the physical hardware, which is actually going to be live video of me actually setting up the cutters and setting up the tools, the materials, and all that. And we're actually going to go through the jobs, how to actually produce a sign. So the workflow for producing raster braille ADA compliant signage with a roll-in engraver is simple. You load the substrate on the table. The substrate is typically a single color. Okay. You load your cutter, okay, your dot cutter. You design your sign with grade 2 compliant braille. So both Engrave Lab Expert 8.0 and Flexi Engrave 10 support this. They do have the actual grade 2 compliant translators built in. So all you do is type in text and the software does all the work, does the conversion for you, the spacing, everything. So the first step is you're going to drill the holes and then insert the rasters. So the rasters are either inserted with the manual pen or if the customer has a 400, 600 with the auto pen, they can use the auto pen to insert the rasters. Okay. Then the next step is you apply your tactile material. Okay. The tactile material is 1/32 of an inch thick, has a 3M permanent adhesive on it. So you mount, basically you cut off a square that's going to take up the area of your pictogram and your raised text. Place it there, change the cutter, and then you're going to route out the pictogram or raised text, clean it, weed it, and frame it, and you're done. Again, if the customer wants custom shapes, things like that, you would have the next step of routing the material as well. But in a nutshell, it's a 3-step process. Drill, insert, pick, tactile, route, clean, and frame. Okay? So those are the quick steps to ADA signage. Now, our solution, the solution that Roland provides for this, okay? We have 2 kits that we put together. Adam and I have actually worked on putting this together and developing it. There's 2 kits that are offered, and they're offered for use with the Roland EGX 350 as well as the Roland EGX 400 and 600. Okay. The nice thing is it provides a sign shop or engraving professional with everything they need from one source. The problem we had in the past was, you know, we'd sell the machine and then we were providing the resources, but it got difficult and kind of frustrated customers. So having this kind of all-inclusive system hopefully will make it easier, 1, for the customer, and 2, for you, the dealer, in selling these systems. Okay? And again, if you guys have questions during my presentation here, feel free to shoot a question on the screen here. And got one more poll here before we go into the next slide that I'd like you guys to go ahead and answer. So here, basically, are you currently selling ADA signage systems? Okay, be it Roland or other. But this just gives me a feel as to, you know, your comfort level with ADA systems. Okay, great. So again, we're almost at that 50-50 split of some of you that do sell it and some of you that don't. Now, for you guys that do sell the ADA system, here's a question for you. Does having this kit that Roland now provides, is that helping your business? Is that going to allow you to sell more Roland engraving product? So if you can just answer in the questions window, let's see, by everything. Let's see, one of the questions was, what do I mean by everything? Are you meaning the kit? Let's see. Okay, as far as the kit goes, as far as the bundle, and let me go to the next slide here because it does actually detail what's in the kit. Now, the ADA kit includes an engraving tool starter kit, which is a number of different cutters, okay, for other engraving work. So, you know, for doing name tags, trophy plates, things like that. So we actually include an engraving tool starter kit. The braille and profile cutters, okay, these are included with the raster pen license kit. The appropriate collet, okay, for the 350. We also bundle the Engrave Lab Expert software. I am in the process of creating a new SKU which would give you as the dealer the option of selecting a kit with Engrave Lab or a kit with Flexi. I do know some of you guys would prefer a Flexi product, so I've listened and I will be making that change soon. So, you know, keep an eye out for some new part numbers as well. Now the license kit, there is no annual fee. It's a one-time thing. So when you buy it and the customer signs the license agreement, they are licensed to use the raster method, which is a patented process. So again, the Accent Signage Systems raster pen license kit for the 350 simply includes the manual raster pen, which I'll show on Thursday. The 4 and 600 actually includes both the manual pen and auto inserter. Okay. Question was on the collet. The collet's just a guide for the tool, and I'm going to go over it in more detail on Thursday. We also include a starter kit of ADA compliant substrates from Romark. Customer gets a couple of sheets of 8x8, 6x6s, some 4x4s as far as substrate and the tactile material, or some people call it an applique, that goes on top for the raised text and the pictogram. So the customer does get a starter set of some ADA compliant materials to get started. Comes with a pack of the adhesive sheets. These are the AS10 sheets for holding down the materials. We also include a half horsepower vacuum chip removal system. It's an ultra quiet system, as well as the vacuum hose for the 4 and 600. So going back to the question as far as is it a complete kit, yes, it's got pretty much everything. It is pretty much turnkey. Now another question is, are you able to substitute IPI, ADA compliant materials? You can, but unfortunately we don't carry that. So if you wanted to swap that out, you know, you as a dealer would need to bring that kit in, make the swap before you ship it to your customer. As far as the additional rasters, replacement cutters, things like that, that would be purchased through Accent Signage Systems. So they're the ones that hold the patent, and they sell all the additional things. So if a customer wants to engrave in stainless steel, for instance, they would be able to purchase the stainless steel cutters from Accent. And again, on Thursday, we'll cover some of those components. Okay, so one of the questions was that they won't sell to resellers. Now, if you're a reseller and you actually have a demo, so if you have the demo version or the dealer demo of the Accent, the raster license pen, you do have access to purchase those rasters. If not, you can either get with Adam or myself, and we can contact Accent about that. But yeah, if you are a actual demo site and you've signed the license agreement and everything, yes, you can buy those rasters from Accent Signage Systems. Okay. So the roll-in system. So the roll-in system itself. Again, we have the 3 systems. So The pricing that I have listed here is MSRP pricing. Okay, so if a customer wanted a 350 ADA system, the complete MSRP on that is $98.95. Okay, obviously, as a dealer, you have some leeway there as far as pricing. The 400 MSRP is $15,595, and the 600 is $18,695. Looks like Adam chimed in as well, and Accent will sell to you if you have any trouble. Again, Adam and myself can talk to them and see what's going on there. My last slide here, and then we're going to have a couple more questions for you guys, is just kind of the comparison between the raster braille method, okay, which is what we offer, and other braille methods, which is typically the photopolymer method. Okay, for design flexibility, okay, we can use the raster braille method with virtually any type of sign material, so plastic, wood even, acrylics, metals. With photopolymer, the braille is actually part of the substrate material or the photopolymer material that's etched. Compliance. As far as compliancy, the raster braille method is fully compliant. Okay, whereas with the photopolymer method, again, the flat top braille dots are difficult to distinguish and actually will fail to comply with the latest requirements of the 2010 standards. So, adding paint, things like that will give you some rounded dots, but it's not going to be perfectly domed. The equipment and supplies needed, okay, with raster braille, it's just simply the engraving machine, rasters, cutters, and the license. With photopolymer, you've got to have chemical processing equipment, paint operations, screen printing, hot stamping. You got to have a film printer for doing the films, for etching. So that's quite extensive. Service and replacement, okay, with an engraving system. It's easy to do updates or replacement. So, say somebody needs just one sign replaced. It's a lot more cost effective to do it with an engraver as opposed to photopolymer. If you guys are familiar with the whole digital printing and screen printing side of things, if I'm doing tens of thousands, or thousands of items or even hundreds, yeah, screen printing would be the way to go versus digital. Same thing with photopolymer, because you have that screen already. Photopolymer might be the way to go if you're doing a lot of signs. And for that, you have to do more signs to bring the cost down. Whereas with engravers, it's pretty much a fixed cost for every sign. Okay. So again, service and replaceability. Replacement short runs are just as costly using photopolymer. Okay. As well as longer lead times versus rotary. Durability. Okay, the raster spheres are very durable and literally tamper resistant in any sign face material. So once those are press fit in there, it's pretty hard to get those out without totally destroying the entire sign. With photopolymer, the braille dots are an integral part of the sign. So, it's subject to the same vulnerabilities as the sign itself. As far as cost to produce, again, if we're talking low volume, even mid-volume, the raster braille method is actually very low to produce. I mean, even if you decide to do high volume, if you have an EGX 600, it's very low as far as cost to produce signs. Whereas with photopolymer, it is a lot higher because, again, you have the painting involved and so forth. And then other application uses. Okay, with an engraver, You can use it for plaques, awards, industrial engraving, so control panels, things like that, serialization, gifts, even custom rhinestone apparel. Whereas with photopolymer, that's all it is, photopolymer. It's not much more you can do with that. So I'm going to go to some of the questions here that have been asked. As far as the photopolymer suppliers converting, okay, one of the questions is, do you think photopolymer suppliers will convert due to the new compliance issues or just continue as is? Good question. I'm hoping that the photopolymer guys will, again, maybe it's still a good idea to do the pictogram, the raised text with photopolymer, but then if you're doing hundreds, but for doing the actual braille itself, hopefully they'll get on board and start implementing some engravers in there with the raster method. I have seen, I think Nova Polymers is one, and they actually use a little kind of Dremel tool to round off the dots. So again, it's time consuming, and you have to have an employee sitting there cleaning up each sign to give the round top. So hopefully they'll convert later on down the road. Let's see. As far as the raster braille cost versus photopolymer, I do have some ROI information. I can provide that offline. You can just send either Adam or myself an email, and we could definitely get you that information. Now, as far as another question here is, if photopolymer is not compliant, why do architects specify it so often? Actually, what we're finding is architects are actually specifying domed braille. They're not specifying photopolymer. They're specifying domed braille. As soon as you specify domed braille, raster braille is going to get you there. Again, people are still going to use photopolymer or outsource it, but they're going to have to do some finishing to give that domed braille look. So again, manual labor is going to be involved with that. Can you paint the top for custom colors? Now with photopolymer, that's how you would do it, because the photopolymer product is just a single color, so you would have to paint it and then use hot stamping or screen printing for the lettering, and you can use whatever color you want, typically Pantone colors. With the raster braille method, or using the engraver for this, you can actually use any combination of substrate plus the tactile material that's out there. And there are a lot of different colors available. If you go to Romark or Innovative Plastics websites, you can actually see the variety of colors that they offer. Another question is, will you be sending every attendee a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes, actually we'll have this available on RNet, so you guys will have access to download this presentation for your use as far as presenting to your clients. As far as the rasters themselves, there are different colors as well. There's clear, there's white, there's black acrylic, white acrylic, clear, there's brass, and stainless steel. Those are the 5 different raster colors. All right, so this leads us to our last poll of the day. Okay, should pop up here soon. Okay, now hopefully this particular webinar gives you a little more information to give you a little more confidence in selling 8A signage. So if you found yourself hesitant in the past, hopefully this webinar will overcome some of those fears. Again, when you receive the PowerPoint presentation, you can check out some of the laws and regulations regarding compliancy. A beauty of the accent signage part of it, when the customer buys that, they actually get a 3-ring binder that goes into some of those laws and regulations, into the sign designs, even installation. It tells you, you know, how far up from the wall it's got up from the floor it's got to be, how far in from the door. You know, it talks about you know, if you have double doors, single doors, glass doors, where the signs go. It even talks about wayfinding signs as far as distance, things of that nature. So the manuals actually cover a lot of it. But the links that I'm going to give you that are in the PowerPoint should help you as well. One of the questions here was, will we aggressively advertise these turnkey systems? Actually, we've started promoting it. We've got ads out there in the magazines. We have it on our webpage. I believe we've done some blasts out there to end users as well. So we are promoting it. Again, if you have a customer base of your own, obviously all of the guys that you sell inkjets to, for my dealers out there that do sell inkjets, there's your base right there, especially the guys that are actually selling signage. These are guys that you can aggressively approach with the engraving solution. The last few months here, since we've come out with the kit, we've increased our engraving sales considerably. So there is money to be made here. One of the questions is, what ADA compliant regulations will change in 2012? Not so much that they're changing, but that's when they start enforcing some of the compliancy. Just to give you an example, if for some reason somebody gets sued for not being compliant, if it goes to court and they're found guilty of not being in compliancy, the first offense is $55,000. Second offense, again, if that same company sued again, second offense is a $110,000 fine for not being compliant. So there's a lot to be said about being compliant. Another question here is, does the accent manual ship with the engraver? It actually ships with the kit. So when you buy the bundle, the accent manual is part of that bundle. It's part of the whole raster pen starter kit bundle. And we are we are interested in helping you guys promote it any way we can. So if you need assistance with that, definitely get in contact with Adam, and he'll be more than happy to assist you guys in your efforts in promoting this. So if there are no more questions, let's go back to my PowerPoint here. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this webinar. And if you hop up on RNet Pro, okay, for this as well as our future training classes, if you go to the dealer toolbox, over on the right-hand side is the Roland Academy. And we have the registrations there for the actual physical trainings that we hold here at DGA, as well as our webinars. So again, this is a good time to promote my webinar for tomorrow. Tomorrow's webinar is going to cover the actual software workflow for both Flexi Engrave 10 and Engrave Lab Expert 8. So I'll be covering the actual workflow as far as how do you set up the engraver, driver, how do you convert the text to Braille, and the basic layout structure. And then Thursday's webinar is actually going to be live video showing you how we set up our tooling, how we set up the collets, how we set up the auto raster pen, how we measure the offset and so forth, and actually produce a sign. So that'll be on Thursday's webinar. So this particular webinar will be recorded, and you as a dealer will have access to it. Oh, here's a good question. Will we offer this webinar to end users? Yes, we will, sometime next year. So maybe first quarter of next year we'll be offering this as a end user webinar. It will be a little different, but yes, to answer that question. So I'm going to leave the next 5 minutes here open for some additional questions that you guys may have. So I hope that this webinar was informative for you guys. And if you need assistance with any of your sales prospects, any additional questions or comparisons, please do not hesitate to let Adam or myself know. We're there to assist you guys and help you move some equipment. Make it a point that I would love for you guys to be in on the other 2 webinars we have, because that's going to complete the entire series for ADA. So this is just one part, and again, we're going to be doing some additional training tomorrow and Thursday. So if you have not registered, please go up to RNet Pro and register for those classes as well. I think those are going to be very useful, especially Thursday. Thursday when we actually cover the hands-on the machine. And again, the beauty is you guys are going to have a video recording of that to refer to for installs and, you know, things that you can use to promote it. Let's see. As far as comparative analysis on roll-in versus competitive machines, we do have some, and Adam also has access to that, so he could probably get that information for you as far as competitive doc between us and the competition. As far as open houses, typically Adam does the open houses, but if he needs assistance, I am there to assist him. I'd like to once again thank you guys for joining me today. Any additional questions that come up during the day or throughout the week that you think of that you didn't get an answer to, please contact Adam or myself, and we'll be more than happy to help you guys out. And happy selling, and have a great day.